Call the Cumberland County Finance meeting to order, and we'll begin with the roll call, please, Katja.
Yes, Commissioner Niederer.
I am here.
Commissioner Pashi. I'm here. Commissioner Eichelberger.
We are at the point on the agenda to open it up for public comment. Is there anyone in the room wishing to make public comment at this time? We're all here for other purposes. That's fantastic. We'll move on into the approval of, oh, I'm sorry, Katja, is there anyone online?
No.
Okay, we'll go on into the approval of the minutes of the December 3rd meeting.
So to approve.
And it's moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next up, we have a discussion and possible approval for a TEFRA, and I believe, Mr. Gilroy, you've got several items here to cover.
I have two, thank you.
Okay, sure.
So item number 5, this involves Dickinson College. So this is a financing by the college. Here today is Sean Whitty from the college and Peter Edelman, who's their counsel. This financing, which the authority and the county has done before with Dickinson College, it went before the authority and was approved. A TEFRA hearing was conducted and nobody attended or had any comments. So, and Sean can answer or Peter can answer any questions you have. Sean, do you want to just give a brief explanation as to what the project is the money will be used for?
Sure, it's a partial refinancing. So we're refinancing our 2016 bonds and the May 26 payment on the 2017s, along with $30 million for renovations to our union building.
And there's some pretty extensive renovations. I was involved with some of the land use on that. So it's going to be really bringing them up to current standards, right?
Yeah, you may see some of that along High
I was
Street.
going to say, when's the project on High Street going to be completed?
Yeah, that's all part of this project. A lot of it's about access, student spaces, and modernization, things like that.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Did anyone have questions of either individual at this time?
No, and I move to approve.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
And thanks again for getting us on the agenda. I know we kind of snuck in here. So the second item is with respect to Messiah Lifeways. And we thought we'd have 2 issues for Messiah, but because of an advertising snafu, we're only here with 1, so you'll see us back again, hopefully. So here is Franny Riley, who is the solicitor, the bond counsel, and Jared Leo from Messiah. This particular issue is primarily just for refunding of current debt. A portion of it was the authority's debt, which the county had provided, and a portion of it was, I think, West Shore Authority. Jared, just about a brief explanation for this use of the funds.
Yes, so as Hubert mentioned, vast majority of the proceeds in this transaction are refunding of several prior series of debt. We have opportunity with favorable capital market conditions to take advantage of lower interest rates and improve our position with respect to our balance sheet. So that is the most significant portion of the transaction. We have a small portion of this bond issue, which will be used for some pre-development costs for a project we are undertaking in Fairview Township, which is a significant expansion of our independent living housing. So that's basically the summary of what we're intending to do with the funds.
Yeah, and just a portion for that project. The second bond issue, which I'll hopefully be before you soon, it involves that project, which is actually the development and construction. So like you said, 90%. And this again, as with all of these issues, the authority, neither the authority or the county is pledging any assets or taxing powers to support it. The bondholders must look to the borrowers directly for any funds.
And I'm sorry, so the project then that we'll see next, and which is a portion of this, it's Fairview Township?
Fairview Township, but why don't you explain that a little bit, because it's out of the county, but it's the interaction between your existing facilities.
Correct. So new facility that we're planning in northern York County, literally just across the yellow breaches from Cumberland. We wish Cumberland has been wonderful to us through the years. We appreciate that. But no, all the bond issues are part of an obligated group, which means the collateral package is Messiah Village in Mechanicsburg, which sits in the county and is essentially the mothership, if you will, for the operation. The subsidiary project that we're taking on in York county would still be part of a collective collateral package backing all of the debt since, again, the mothership sits in Cumberland. It's most, favorable for us to continue to do transactions through the Cumberland County Authority, even though the project is in York County.
And I understood residents from that are located in Cumberland County now would maybe go between those two
Correct.
facilities.
Yeah, there will be no healthcare on the property in Fairview. All of the healthcare would be serviced out of the main campus in Mechanicsburg.
So it's not a separate entity, it's part and parcel of the main facility, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, we're disappointed not to have expansion in Cumberland County because you all do such fine work.
Thank
It
you.
is, I'm sure it's needed. I know it's needed more expansion in our area and I'm
For
sure in
sure.
York County as well. So thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions?
No, I move to approve.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you very much. May
Thank
we
you all.
excuse ourselves?
You.
Take some hot air out of the room,
May.
get the lawyers out here. Thanks again for getting us on your schedule.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Merry
all.
Christmas, everybody.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. Okay. Next, we have a discussion and approval for a state and cybersecurity grant. We have with us Mark Adams.
Afternoon. This is the third year of the state and local cybersecurity grant that I'm asking for your approval to move forward and apply for the grant. Previously, the first year, we got 2 services for free from the state as part of the grant. Last year, they offered 4 services and we applied and got all 4 of those. This year, they're not providing services, they're providing funding for more the same services, but giving us some flexibility to use some of the existing things that we have in place today. So hopefully we'll be able to recoup some money back into our own pocket through this grant. It's a $75,000 request to apply for the grant. The county would pay 30% of that and the state would reimburse us the 70% of that money.
Okay, great. Cybersecurity is a concern to everyone, and we appreciate all your efforts
I'm
around.
working with Katie on the application and all that process too, so she's very heavily involved.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions?
I will
Mark?
move to approve.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We are going to move the discussion surrounding space allocation to the bottom of the agenda. So we will skip over 8 and move into item 9, and that is discussion and possible approval of resolution 2025-25 with the adoption of the budget. And we have with us some folks from finance and Carrie Finkenbeiter. I think you are going to lead the way.
So we're requesting approval of the 2026 budget. Total county revenue is budgeted at 270.8 million. And total county expenses are at 290.1 million. General fund revenue makes up 109.9 million and general fund expenses are 126.7 million. The proposed budget also has no increase to the millage rate. It'll stay at the 2.875.
And while there are a lot of numbers in and out through that budget process, Carrie, which you've walked us through pretty extensively, the one that I am very focused on is the $6 million that we will be pulling from our reserve funds to make this budget work as proposed. So that's the number that we are all targeting to reduce. And while I know some folks may jest at our sharing of paper clips and things like that, I've been really encouraged by some of the mindset of the department leaders that they're taking to try and seek additional funding and look for ways to save money. So thank you. Did anyone have any questions of Carrie surrounding the budget at this time? It's been on view.
Yes, and there have been no changes since it was first on.
Okay.
I will move to approve.
It's moved. Is there a second? I will second. So it's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
No.
Okay, Commissioner Eichelberger is opposed. Next then, we have the discussion and possible resolution to the setting the real estate tax millage rate.
So the millage rate would be 2.875. That's no increase from 2025.
Understood. And I read recently, I know that a lot of our surrounding counties are facing an increase, some in the double digits. We've addressed some of our issues earlier, I believe, than they did after the pandemic, and I credit that to the finance team for advising us through that. No one is out of the woods yet, and it's still very difficult, as I think all budgets should be. We want to make the most of the money that we are given by our taxpayers. So I just know that people are at a point where they cannot continue to absorb significant increases in their cost of living. So I'm proud to be able to maintain the millage rate that we've set.
Carrie, what did you say the number was?
2.875.
Okay, the resolution says 2.625.
That is the county piece.
Bars.
The levy
Okay, all right, thank you.
0.25.
Thank you. Okay, I will move to approve.
Okay, it's moved. It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
I say aye, but I just don't understand how you can not vote for a budget, but a vote for the millage rate. It just makes, it's just completely, seems very backwards to me.
One is spending, one is not.
I'm hoping that next year you vote no to everything that comes before us, because to vote yes to any contract, to anything, is voting in favor of a budget that two of us passed today. So I'm hoping you're consistent next year. I'm done. Yeah.
So Commissioner Fashi, it's very easy. Commissioner Eichelberger was allotted adequate time to provide edits to the budget, to participate in the conversation. He elected not to do that. So this, of course, is not surprising to us. However, I'm not deterred, because I think we have great staff in place doing great things. We have had a lot of answers.
We do, and it's a good thing that we have great staff in place doing great things.
We've had a lot of answers from the state, and while the state budget was not tremendously different, it was what we anticipated. Our 911 funding came through at what we anticipated. That is still one of our largest deficits, and I know that team is looking for ways to save money as they move forward with collaboration across counties. And in some respects, I feel like that's all we can do to move forward. But it's very easy to throw darts after the work has been done, and not offer solutions. So.
Well, solutions have to come throughout the year, not just in.
Well, I did hear a solution from you the other day in this room that you said just in this room. It certainly, we had a discussion about the fleet of automobiles,
Mhm.
And your comment was, well, just take the money from the district attorney and he'll figure it out. So I thought it was interesting that you could
Mhm.
offer that, right, in that particular, with that particular group, but you don't say those things publicly. You don't come
I
to us
voted
with
against
that.
all
It
the
was like this
positions that were brought
flippant
forward.
thing that you said, and it would be nice to hear what you really are up
Well,
to.
let's talk about consistency for a second. So if the onus is on the person who's voting no to always offer an alternative, when this county goes to our legislators and says, we need more money for mental health, we need more money for this, for that, blah, blah, blah. Do you provide an alternate budget to our state representatives?
You have just taken one of the biggest reaches I think I've ever heard you
It's really
take.
not. It's really not.
That is just asinine.
If you're gonna vote.
That was nonsense.
if you're
That's
gonna vote,
nonsense.
Say
That's
we
nonsense.
demand more money.
We're in charge of the budget in this county,
Then you.
not the one at the state.
Our
It's our
legislators have asked-
responsibility to go and work.
Our legislators
and
have
lobby
asked us,
for
if
more
you want
money, and
money
you
for
know
this,
it.
tell us what else.
You
would
know
cut.
it.
And of course,
You know
there's
it.
never any answer for.
You know it.
Want to talk about consistency? Why don't we go back to November of 2023? Mrs. Fauci voted for a no tax increase budget, touted it all through the election. You did. And then, of course, within 60 days, once you were safely back in
What
office,
did you offer?
you proposed a 25%.
It wasn't within
hike.
60
It's
days.
not 25%, Gary,
And
by the
what
way.
did
She
you
proposed
offer?
25, you said
What
it has
did
to be
you offer?
15.
What did you offer?
We-
What did you offer in 2023?
The entire board,
Bupkis.
the
You
board,
offered nothing.
the board passed a budget, a no tax hike budget.
I know, and you were okay with that.
Yes. And then you turned around in 60 days, once you were back in office and said, we got to have a
Gary, I have
25%
quotes in
hike.
the paper where you said you were going to call to reopen that budget.
Yeah.
Yes.
You were,
To address
but
the
you
spending
didn't.
side.
and we did that
I
because
did, and you
not.
said it's not legal to cut the spending. Those were your comments. We
It's
cannot address expenditures, only revenues.
That is absolutely false.
It's absolutely false. I said it was difficult once, as it relates to farmland preservation. Once you have already given the green light for them at a certain level. At that point, after the board had already said, that's why we began having farmland preservation conversations earlier and more frequently. And, you know, it's still a topic of conversation, which I can update the board on at our next, at the meeting tomorrow. However, I have never said it's not legal to cut. I've never
You
said
said
that.
you cannot address the spending side of the budget, only the revenue side. You said
Commissioner
multiple
Eichelberger,
times.
although this is such an enjoyable and fun conversation, I would remind you that most of what the county does is mandated by the state. The state says you must provide mental health care. We'll take your example. We're going to take your example. So they mandate that you must provide it. They're supposed to help pay for it. They've talked about that forever. They said back when they closed the mental health hospitals, hey, you know, we're going to make sure that there's money for it, and there isn't. So I cannot come to the table and say, let's cut mandated human services. That would be the state that would have to cut that. I'm not interested in telling people they can't have mental health services. I'm not interested in telling children that they can't have children's services. Not interested.
So
It's a different kind of budget.
And Gary, I have said from day one, it's been structurally imbalanced. We have been working to address that structural imbalance. That is working both sides. That is working revenue and that is working expense. And that is exactly the approach. I have been very consistent on that. That is exactly the approach that this board has taken. We have worked both sides of that balance sheet, revenues and expenses. And some things we control more than others. And that's just unfortunately the position we're in. But it is, I think, incredibly disingenuous of you to continue to play all sides of an issue. You know, go poll, find out what you think vote, you know, will get you reelected for the umpteenth time that you can attack Jean and I on as it relates to the financial management of this county. But quite frankly, you are very content to do whatever you need to do to get reelected. And if that should be bankrupting this county, you're more than happy to do so. I am not.
Oh, clearly. I don't, this is not accomplishing anything because
You're
it's not,
correct,
it's not factually based.
It is factually
So-
based that you will not vote in favor of a budget and you will not offer any
I
opinion or solutions. That
attempted
is
to offer
factually
throughout the
based.
year, which is the proper way to
Maybe
do
you
it.
offer it in your own little head,
To
but you
other
certainly don't
people.
offer it, yes, but you certainly do not.
Well,
offer
you
it
certainly
in a
sat here
forum
and
that is
criticized enough
constructive.
times when I voted against expenditures that I thought were not necessary in the midst of a budget situation.
Keep voting against things. That's
You
what you need to
you
do.
voted against the hiring in children and youth. And again, I'll maintain that is some of the most cost-effective employees we have when they are funded at an 80%. Maybe IDD is better because it's 80 to 90. But in children and youth, with the need that we have in this county, you did vote against that. I agree you did. You voted against the lab. After this thing is built, it's like somebody building a restaurant. You pump all the money into it and then you don't hire the chef. It just makes no sense. We had to hire someone to make the gun lab operational. And I am encouraged, and the new contract that the lab has with the state is going to contribute significantly more revenue. The DA's office is looking for resources. People, particularly after the breach that happened, I think at the state lab, are very interested in having alternatives. Not that we are set up as a money-making mechanism for the lab, but it clearly lets us be more efficient in the way that we serve justice to have. What did Sean say recently? It was 18 months that
Yes,
that
he was
Dalton
waiting.
County was
Yep.
waiting on a gun.
Yep.
So if you have to keep someone incarcerated for that time period, or just delay trial, that's very, very expensive. So we're watching that lab very closely, and we are watching all of the expenses very closely. Gary, I'm very sorry you choose not to participate, But you're right, this conversation, because a leopard does not change its spots. So we will move on.
I stopped participating only when everything turned into a screaming match every time I suggested something.
No
we
one's
didn't like.
screaming at you.
No one is screaming at this time. So we will, we did take the motion and voted, correct, Stacy? That was voted on. Did I call the?
Are we good?
Yeah, yes, okay, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
We will now,
Appreciate it.
thank you, Carrie, thank you all of finance. I know that that's been a lot of work for you. The space allocation presentation, we will now begin that discussion, and we have with us Brent Durham in our facilities department.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
So I'm going to start here. As you know, we had a facilities master plan completed, and there's lots of data in that plan. 328 pages worth of data is in there. Cumberland Hall that did the plan, they did a phased approach. It was understand, define, analyze, and then provided us a plan. And their plan was a roadmap. That roadmap was to sort of help us guide, future decisions. And it was, future decisions long term, 20 plus years out. What it did not provide to us was it did not provide what do we do from now until something can be done, right? Where do we get from, how do we get from now to merge into their roadmap, right? So that's what I'm here to talk about, right? And I'm not presenting a roadmap. I like to call it a bridge. I'm going to help you with a bridge here, right?
You may want to use a different word for this board right now.
Don't worry about it.
It's
We're-
good, Brent. Thank you.
we're-
You've been charged with a very difficult task, and I appreciate it.
We're working through this and we're trying to get to a point where everything might merge together, right? That's what we're after. This presentation here today, I'm going to share three different segments here. First, I'm going to identify the problem, right? I'm going to take you through some data. I'm going to share with you what I see as the major problem that we face from now until 2033. I picked 2033 for a couple of reasons. Number one, in the Cumberland Hall study, that was one of the timelines that they used. So I had all that data. And secondly, realistically, any bridge that we create now until it merges with either their roadmap, a roadmap that we may create, whatever, is probably going to be, 5, 6, 7 years out. So that's why I chose the 2033. The second part of my presentation here is I'm going to start building that bridge. I'm going to start showing you some moves, some things, and some data of how we can start that. And then the third part of it is at one point, I'm going to stop and I'm going to, share with you where we are and plans of moving forward. I'm not sharing with you here a full out plan that's going to get us the whole way. This is I'm going to call it a partial bridge, if you will.
Can I interrupt you a second?
Yeah.
Because what did we spend on that contract with Cumberland Hall?
It was 487,000, I think, give or take.
Do you feel that we've gotten what we wanted for 487,000?
I think they did what we asked of them.
Okay.
I mean, I think we have the data that we asked of them.
Okay.
If this was our first go around with something like this, with a project like this, if we had it to do over, might make some different changes and ask for some different information, but I think they provided what we asked them.
I guess the reason I ask is because you said we're not getting a roadmap. I think my expectation was for something closer to a roadmap, especially for that dollar amount. So it feels like we're kind of backfilling.
Well, when I reference the roadmap, reference the bridge, they show clearly that we have a problem that exists right now today, right? They did give a timeline of their roadmap, right? But that timeline does not help us today. It doesn't help us to get, 5 years, 6, 7 years into their roadmap. They didn't provide that. The data's there, which I'm going to share with you here, to help us, but That was not part of what we asked them to do. That's not part of what they provided.
Okay, thanks.
And Fred, was that contract paid with ARPA funding?
It was, I believe, am I correct? Yeah.
So, and part of the goal of this was really focused on, where the county has been growing so fast for quite a long time. Where is this headed? And where do we need to be prepared to think out on a long-term basis? We didn't say, what do we need to do tomorrow? That wasn't any part of it. This is all about long-term planning. And, part of the struggle that we're having right now with a lot of our capital and our facilities is because that wasn't done. So, I think there has always been acknowledgement that we've got to figure out how to get, the short term, and I know you've been charged with it. You're going to walk us through it, and thank you. How we get from point A to point B, because there's a lot of moving parts, because we've started so far behind the 8 ball. Like, we're already so far out of space. If we had done that look back, maybe, I don't know, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, we would be in a different situation. So thank you.
Well, yeah, and these are the cards that we have right here in front of us, and
Right. Agreed.
this is where I'm going.
And I'm looking forward. Thank you.
So the first thing that I have here is a chart. Now, this chart is taken right directly from the Welgern Hall, and it outlines the space standards, what we have existing. You see the DGSF in there. That, once again, that's department gross square footage, right? Kirk explained that the past meeting that we had. This standard that's in here. This is something that the Welgern Hall had put into their report. The standard, they looked at all the different departments, how they function, how they operate, and they assigned a square foot number per employee. And that's partly how they came up with the standards, right? Those numbers were anywhere from 100 square feet to 225 square feet, depending on the different department. And the numbers that they used, I think we could debate some of them, especially when you talk about the storage space and some of the numbers that he did there. I think it could be debated, and I think anybody from the Welgern Hall or Chloe, I think they would agree that, these are numbers that they use to the best of their knowledge, but there's certain situations I think we could debate some of it. So, but that's not necessarily what I'm here for today. I want to walk you through the categories here. If you look at the administration and finance category, you'll see that it's showing that we're 3,800 square feet short of space currently, and that goes up to 11,000 by 2033. But that category consists of 16 departments. Those 16 departments are spread out over many, many buildings. And quite frankly, that amount of square footage that we're missing is not a concern to me at this point. It's not a short-term concern. You go to the agriculture development and planning, we're pretty much spot on there when you look at those numbers. I'm going to jump the courts and criminal justice. The emergency services there, it's showing 2,000 square feet up to 4,000 by 2033. Here again, that's mostly storage, and I think that's very debatable numbers on what they use for emergency services. The health and human service category here, I found interesting because if you look at that, Welgern Hall is saying that we have extra space, that we're oversized there. Now, this category consists of 7 departments. 5 of those departments are oversized per the report. Now, we've already started making moves according to the report. For instance, drug and alcohol. We've downsized them. We're right sizing them. We use that move to give some more space to children and youth. the aging and MHIDD move I'm going to talk about here a little bit, they were oversized, and it's all part of the right sizing that is why we're able to make that transition. When you look at space as well, the one thing that they tell you, if you want to lower space requirements for departments, is to look at paper, right? Minimize paper or reduce paper, you're increasing square footage. And that is so true, and it's so true in the case of the aging and MHIDD, because MHIDD, they have digitized much of their records, many of their records. I mean, we've taken a dozen or more of the big lateral files out of there, but that was all square footage that we're now able to reuse in a different manner. The category here of the common, shared, vacant, I honestly have not looked closely at that. That's just all shared areas. If it's conference rooms that are shared, break rooms that are shared, storage areas that are shared, that's all falls into that math number there. I think realistically, I think the reality of it is we'd fall somewhere in the middle of the two numbers of what they're showing. But I'm going to go back to so if you look at the grand total, right, of existing space now and compare it to what New Grand Hall standard is, we are at 43,000 square feet short right now. But what's interesting is if you look at the courts and criminal justice category, they're 53,000 square feet short now, and proposed 73,000 square feet by 2033.
Frank, can I just ask one question before we move on? So common, shared, vacant, and tenant. Could it be that the existing is so significantly higher because we're across so many buildings? Because you don't, like, if you were in one big building, you would have bathrooms to service like whole floors. Well, here we have to have bathrooms that service this facility, bathrooms, lobbies, here and there. So because we're spread across so many different facilities, it would seem to me that that's a large reason that number would have automatically been relatively high.
I think there's some merit to what you're saying, Kelly. There's a lot of the numbers here, and like I said, I didn't look real close at this, but a lot of it was the conference rooms. Like you take all Allen Road has all the different conference rooms. There's a big conference room at elections. The conference room. I shouldn't say public safety, but the Business Central was one, right? You take all of those conference rooms was all in this category, common shared, where if everybody was under one envelope, at least we would be using the conference rooms more often, more efficiently.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Right, I just want to mention, so when you're talking about the administrative, you say paper, you're talking about the records, just the plethora of record keeping that's
correct
in practice here.
Correct.
Okay. This morning, we just had an interesting conversation about whether we have adequate understanding of records retention requirements and the changes that have been made there. So I think there's going to be some effort as well to maybe push that message out more on county staff as well to know what's excessive.
There's I've heard, I hear frequently that we're now permitted to digitize, but we don't have time. We don't have the resources. And I'm not calling out any particular department, but I do hear that frequently. But the point that I'm trying to make is if we could make that happen sooner, we're creating space. So,
and some departments are doing well with that. Others
they are. I'm going to talk about controllers here a little bit, but they recently, got rid of 6-8 big lateral files that was in a room. So
800 boxes, I hear.
that was different. Yes, but that was different. So this next slide, okay, we recognize that we have a problem in the courts system, right? So I looked at just
the courthouse. And that's what this is. This is a list of departments that are within the courthouse here, court related. And if you look at that first column and go down, you'll see that we are 38,500 square feet short of space just in the departments at the courthouse. Right? That's a big number. You know, Gene, you've mentioned before, like, I don't know what 20,000 square feet looks like, right?
Right.
38,000 square feet is the east wing, the entire east wing and the Bixler and all of that is 30,000 square feet, just to give you an example. It's a large amount, right? That 38,000 goes to 50,000 by 2033, as you can see there. Now, another thing I just shared with you that the court systems overall were 53,000, whatever it was, short on space. The difference there between what we're short here and what we're short across that category is only 14,800 square feet, right? And that 14,000 square feet is across the probation offices, it's across the 10 DJs, it's across the coroner, domestic relations. So, you know, in the grand scheme of things, that's a small number for all of those facilities. What's a big number is the 38,000 that we're short here, right? So I was working myself towards creating goals. So the one thing that I looked at then was, okay, let's concede that we're down to 38,000. How much are we going to grow from now to 2033? And that's what the numbers there on the right-hand side are, right? These departments that are in this courthouse will grow from 11,000 square feet to 12,900, right? And I just threw the numbers for the rest of what's in the courthouse here below, just for your reference, is what I did. But I want you to keep in mind that 11,000 and that 12,900 number here a minute. I'm going to jump a slide. I just want to show you this slide here. This is, I don't know where I came up with this title, it's terrible, but anyway. The point, what I want to show here is the departments that are on this list are departments that are within the courthouse that do not need to be or are not required to be. They're not court-related departments. If you look at that, they total 11,500 square feet, right? We barely could meet the need till 2033 here if we were to remove everybody from here, which really is not a cost-effective option in my mind. So how do I go back a slide? Back a slide. Yeah, thank you. This one is going to confuse right now. I apologize ahead of time. I'll do my best to explain what I'm doing here. When I recognized that we will not be able to keep up with that growth that's projected, I then took and I looked at the
Katya's
departments.
gonna get rid of your, no, that's
I
okay.
just want to put this in.
Sometimes it's taking minutes and sometimes it's taking whatever the job calls for.
To the fit to one. I think that's it. Okay. This one shows.
It's hard to see other people's cursors, I know.
Set F5.
How to get rid of the thumbnails, yeah. I don't know.
I know where it used to be, but now it's moved. It's
Bottom right hand corner.
See, it's moved. There it is. I see it.
Oh, thank you.
Takes a village.
Thank you.
when I recognized that we would not be able to meet that 11,000 to 12,900 growth, I thought, okay, what would be reasonable, right? So then I thought, well, okay, let's target trying to just keep up with how far we're behind now, if that makes sense to you. So the second column there is a percentage number, and what I'm showing there, if you look at clerk of courts, for instance, I'm going to just use them because they're an easy one. They need an additional 916 square feet, but when you look at the amount of space they have now, they have 78% of what Welfare Hall is saying they should have. Okay. I can move on over to the right and you'll see where I list 200. They're supposed to grow 200 square feet from now to 2033. So what I did, I took the 78% times the 200, and that gives you the 156, right? So what I made is the target goal is that, like, if we can get them the 156 square feet, at least by 2033, they have not gone backwards. They haven't regressed, right? So those numbers that are to the right, that 66, 24, 76, 16, that is sort of what my target would be, to try to keep up with the growth and not regress from at least any further than we already are. So does that all make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So now back to the slide here that shows the departments that's within the courthouse here that could move. And I sort of did this from the top easy to most difficult. Recorder of deeds, I think, is a very easy move that could happen. Controllers, I think, is a very easy move. The treasurers, you start getting into a little bit more money that will be involved because of security and et cetera, et cetera. Commissioners, you have the hearing room, you've got all this technology. I think it'd be a pretty expensive move to try to move you out to another location. And then obviously IMTO, I think would be a time consuming and expensive venture. But if you look, I mean, that totals the 11,500. So there's not a lot of wiggle room here. Now I did add the sheriff at the bottom of this, and I added them there for a reason. They have 3,874 square feet on the third floor here of office space. And I broke it down into two sides, the 1,700 and the 2,174. The 2,174 is their administrative side that's on the east wing. The 1,700 is the main courthouse side here. That's their warrants division and their firearms and licensing, right? So I didn't know what level, if any, of them could be moved out of this facility and moved somewhere else. I obviously recognize that any move of them would be maybe not taken so well. It might interrupt their operations to a certain extent, but there's some significant possibilities there if we could take some of them and move, right? So that's what those numbers are. When I say totals, including sheriff, I'm just the 15,852 that I show there. That's what we would have available at the courthouse if we moved all those departments, including sheriff. So.
But that, this is where the slope gets really, really slippery,
Yeah.
because
No, I
their
understand.
goal is, or their, primary function is to support the courts and the safety and security of
No, I
those. So
I understand. I understand.
I see your dilemma.
But anyway, okay, now that I've shared with you what I view as the problem is here at the courthouse. It's the courts at the courthouse. So I sort of set some goals. I set the target as, that 6,600, whatever that was, and started looking at what moves could we make? And the moves, can we right size where possible? Can we work towards critical adjacencies in certain cases? Can we identify the hybrid workforce and adjust sizing and weight accordingly? can we divest any of the properties? And ultimately work towards, increasing the occupancy rates, which is basically the bodies in the seats, right? So that was like some of the goals that I tried to create as I developed this. The first one here that we talked about in the past is the aging to MHID. We're in the final stages of that. We're probably going to move them here in the middle of January. We were hoping to move it a little earlier, but because of some of their federal requirements, they had a lot of people coming in until the end of December here. So we sort of had to kick that back, and frankly, we moved it on, so we needed to kick it back anyway. But they both we were able to do this because all of the I say both. I always view MH and IDD as the same, and I know they're separate, but between aging MH and IDD, they were all working a hybrid workforce. They were all working at 43% occupancy. I ran the data for a 2-month period. I tested it then about 4 or 5 months later for another month, and it stayed consistent. But it was because of that hybrid workforce that we were able to right size them and make this move. Keep in mind, I said earlier, they were both oversized to begin with. That was another thing that helped. The electronic storage of documents, it all is what helped that move to be possible. And for the county, we gained 8,000 square feet because now we developed a space down there at the Office of Aging. The plan then is we're going to take and we're going to move adult probation down to the Office of Aging. Currently they're in 2 locations, and they have their vehicles in a 3rd location. So we certainly have to be creating efficiencies for them by getting them under one roof. They were also right sizing them. Between the 2 buildings that they are in, they're over 9,000 square feet. Auburn Hall had them at 7,100. So we're right sizing them, and we're also giving them the growth that they need from now to 2043 as far as that plan went. So, if the decision is made to keep adult probation there, they can stay there long term. I don't know that that'll be the decision, but that's a possibility. And the only thing that we really absolutely need to do down there would be to create a secured entrance for them. And that should be really quick and easy to do.
Because of the layout of that building, it almost lends itself to a secured entrance on that ground level.
Oh yeah, there's even some of the walls are there. I mean, it'll be pretty quick and easy. So then at that point, we have the old jail empty, we have the rebuilding empty. The rebuilding at that point, it'll be able to be divested. We can get rid of it, which I would certainly be all for. But we're going to look at the historic jail now. It's empty. We could move the controller's office there, put them on the 1st floor. You'll see that it's about 1,880 square feet, that 1st floor. Now, you'll see that I have that box there, controller and the standards and all that, but let me explain that a little bit to you. GSA, the General Services Administration, they're a large player in these space standards, and they're even referenced many times in the New Auburn Hall study. That's where New Auburn Hall was getting a lot of their data. The GSA, they developed this utilization rate, and it was sort of targeting, the hybrid workforce. And so how they created this, one of the formulas was that you take, the amount of people, you take the space standard, and you multiply it by the percentage that they're in the office. And that's how you create the actual space need. So if you look, 200 is the standard. They were running 45% in the office. There's 14 people. That came to the 1260 square footage, right? Now, the one thing that they do caution, you have to be careful of a max day, right? What if a large percentage of the staff come in? How can you accommodate that, right? Of the 3-month period that I talked about, their max day was 9 people. So even the 9 people at the 200 square feet is 1,800 square feet. So I think this is certainly doable. I have not talked with the controller in any depth about this. I will be talking with Dana in more depth, obviously, till we work this out. But it's certainly doable. On the second floor of the historic jail is where I would propose that we put the finance department. They could move to the second floor. This would give them 1,752 square feet, which is more space than what they have now. They just recently, at the beginning of 2024, gained 650 square feet when we made the change from when mapping was able to, when we made a change, because they get rid of all they digitized, right? So that gave us the opportunity there. But here again, this is certainly doable. There is some benefit for them, but I'm not going to go any further into the details on that. So at that point, we will have emptied the controller's area here at the courthouse. This is where we could start making some benefits that exist currently. I'm showing you the controller's area in this slide. And what we would be able to do would be to move victim witness from 2R to this area. We could also move the appellate folks that's on 1R up into this area as well. It will get all of Sean's people on the second floor, with the exception of ARD. It will get victim witness in a much better place. You know where they're at. You know the problems and the issues with where they're at. So this is a big move for them. We can then, and they'll gain, and overall they'll gain about 850 square feet here. Now, this slide is just to show you where some of these other moves will happen. CASA and the custody unit, which it was there in green, they will be able to move to 2R, where we just moved victim witness out. They will be able to grow and get to the space that they need. CASA, I don't know if you've ever been over to CASA, but they are sandwiched in there like sardines, and they're the happiest people that you come across. I mean, but anyway, this will give them much needed space that they need. ARD, that particular group will be able to go down to 1R where the appellate folks are being moved from. So, and then the public defender will then be able to take this area. They'll be able to take the yellow and the green area, which is about 1,200 square feet, which is desperately needed space for them. But at this point, we're still only gained 2,600 square feet at this point. We started looking further, like what are some other options that we have? And so we started looking at Allen Road. And, we looked at where Ag Extension is in the back of Allen Road, and what benefits could that be or provide to the county if we could use that space? We obviously needed the space, so that was a benefit. But we can create some operational efficiencies here if we had that space. So, we talked with Ag Extension. We asked them to start to look for a new location. The county has been agreeable to pay rent, and they're in the stages of starting to look at meeting with Annie Friday to talk a little bit through this with her. But the 2,700 square feet that you see there in the yellow to the right, that is where I would propose moving tax assessment, tax claims, GIS, moving that whole group up there. It's more than enough space. They're currently taking up 2,100 square feet. It's more than enough space for them. I may carve a little bit of that out depending, because I don't know that they even need that much, but, and they don't have a lot of growth projected, so. But for right now, the 2,700 did fit in there comfortably.
That's because of paper.
It's because of paper. It's because of paper. Yeah, when I referenced the 650 square feet that finance gained there at the beginning of 2024, it was because tax assessment, tax claims, they had a room over there that was just nothing but file cabinets. I mean, you could hardly move, right? They digitized all of that. That room completely opened up, and that gave us, because of the size of that room, it gave us the opportunity to move the mapping folks over, which really made sense. It got them all on the same side of the building, and then we were able to move the finance folks a little bit. We were able to move Dana down, and it created space for the grants person, Katie. So that's a great example of digitizing paper and gaining space.
And the space in Allen Road that was occupied or is, currently occupied to some extent by Ag Extension, I mean, they aren't in the office very often, and it's a very small staff, so they had a lot of ancillary space as well.
Sure.
That, we quite frankly need. I know that's challenging, but we need that. So.
One question on Allen Road. So now when we acquired it with the thought that there may be expansion option there. I think may actually be some blueprints or renderings of some type for expansion there. Is that at all still in play, or is the feeling that this could be divested and we don't want to put any additional money into it?
I think at this point, Gary, I don't think that we've given a whole lot of thought to expanding Allen Road. I don't think that's necessarily in the map that we're looking at.
Okay.
The long-term roadmap, if you will. I believe you are correct. I believe there are drawings that were completed at some point in time. The archives building in the back there, that building is set. It was built with expansion in mind. It's brick on three sides and it's metal in the back. I mean, it was built to be added on to. So
seems like the site has potential utility. I know divesting has been part of the ongoing discussion on facilities as well, but it does have a lot of possibilities there. So,
well, it was a key focus of the whole plan. That's proposed site for a very large expansion that was indicated in the plan. It's just that site has a higher and better use, I think, than perhaps some of our offices, but
there's a lot of interest in that property. For sure, there's a lot of interest. But keep in mind what I'm talking about here is just to try to bridge that gap.
Temporary 5 years, temporary 7 years,
Not
temporary, maybe indefinite.
Well, could be.
Yeah.
Could be. And then the next slide here is proposing to move the quarter of deeds up to Allen Road and put them in the pink area or purple area that you see. Now,
When I read this, I thought we were moving them to the historic courthouse. And I was going to raise.
My apologies for that. We were playing with existing slides and moving stuff around, and that Kirk actually called me yesterday and said, "Hey," and I was like, "What?" I didn't even know why he was asking me the question. I was like, "Are we giving them an option?" And I pulled up the slide and I called him right back. So, Kirk, I see exactly why you asked me the question. Right? What this is on the right-hand side is their current space that they have. Right? And if you go down there, you'll see that the 210 of their office and that 368, that's where the majority of their business happens, right? 148 square feet, that office is where Tammy is currently. The 248 square feet is a break room. So if they move down the road, they'll share that break room. They don't need that 248 square feet. Now that 973 square feet is a big space that's underutilized. I can't say it any differently. It is very underutilized.
Yeah, but again, I think it points to Tammy has done a very good job of digitizing and
Oh,
putting a lot of
absolutely.
the searching online
Mhm.
so that folks don't,
Yep.
I mean, that used to be full of searchers going
Mhm.
through big old books and that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah,
I mean, it can occasionally, but not-
correct,
not-
correct. I mean, if you know, she was the one, it was because of her that the courtroom 7 was able to go in there. I mean, all those deeds went up to the archives building, right, to create that, but she kept, half of the area. But the point that I'm trying to make is that 973 could easily be cut in half, right? And when you start running the math numbers on that, they should work just fine in the space that I'm showing. If for whatever reason they needed a little bit more space, that 431, that would be to the left as you come in the rear of the building there, that could be used for their searchers as well. So, and the big benefit here, as I would see it, is, currently, when somebody has the plan, right, they're going to planning to get it stamped. They're then driving downtown here. They're going to the historic courthouse to get the UPI number. And then they're coming across the street and coming through security to get to recorder to record it, right? That's a lot of inconvenience, if you will. Whereas by putting these departments up there at Allen Road, it's free parking, there's plenty of parking, and it'll be one-stop shopping for the folks that do this. So, and if recorder of deeds needs to access the actual deeds, they're all at the archives building in the back. So it'll save the trips that they make to archives for that. So, so I'm going to stop at that point, at this point. And because right now we have the 2,375 square feet where recorder deeds is. And we have, 4,500 to 4,600 of space at the historic courthouse. And what my thoughts here are that, we haven't had in-depth discussion on what an 8th judge will look like, what the requirements are, and even possibly a 9th judge. So my recommendation at this point would be that we stop the bridge, if you will, and we start having serious discussions with the courts, probably Judge Maslin, and the sheriff's department, because I think we need to figure out from the court standpoint what is the need, what don't they need, we need to figure all that out so that we can start identifying how to fill the rest of this space. At the same time, we can talk with the sheriff about the 3rd floor and the space that they have, because the 3rd floor is where our critical need is. Court administration is the one that needs the most space according to the plan. So that's the big spot up there. I know as we start moving through these numbers and start moving through this, the easy button might be to try to put somebody or do something with the rebuilding. I would highly recommend against that. I believe years ago that building was emptied and was going to be sold, and then was reutilized. I'm not here to say whether that was a mistake or not, but in the condition of the building as it stands and according to the report, I wouldn't recommend that.
Which that building sell.
There'll be buyers for it. There'll be buyers for it. It's 3 floors. It's all separated. The utilities are separated. The electric is separated by floors. I think it would be very easy for someone to go in there and make some apartments out of it. That would be my guess. You could put some sort of a commercial in the lower level and then apartments above, probably. I think there'll be some interest.
The condition of it is such that it would be.
The condition is, in the report that talked about sagging floor joists and all that, that sagging has been there. That sagging has been there actually since the county purchased the building back in 1999 or 2000. Right? I found a report from the facilities director back then who recommended not purchasing that building at that time and referenced the slope and all that. I don't think the building is unsafe. What I do know is the building is about to cost us a ton of money. And I don't see that it would make sense to put the money in that building for the amount of square footage gain that we would get.
And it's not designed as an office building.
It's not designed as an office building,
It's just-
no.
Access is not good for office and public.
So I'm just gonna say, there's more work to go there, right? If you add in the 2,600 square feet from the controllers and you add in the 2,300 and some square feet from the quarter feet, we're still only at 5,000 square feet of space created here at the courthouse. If I go back to that one slide, I was targeting
I
65.
can't see what's happening. One second.
What is?
It is, somehow it's transcribing your.
Can you?
Test. Okay. If we go back to one of those earlier slides, I said we were, target 6,600 to 7,600, I believe it was, of space till 2033. And if we can't get there, we're regressing. Right. So, but at this point, I think there's still options, right? I think once we talk with the courts, talk with the sheriff, figure out what we might want to do to the historic courthouse, I think we can get there, but I didn't want to make those decisions right now. I didn't want to be the one to sit and dictate how this all would play out from here on.
Yeah, but you've given us options to make more space in this building in the short run, which is desperately needed.
I put in here just a couple of I don't even know which one to call them, but this is things that I think that will help us to accomplish what we're trying to do, right? Departments need to understand this is a shared challenge. We have these cards that here they are in front of us. It's what we do from here on, right? The judicial system, the courts in the judicial system affect all of us, right? So, we have a significant interest in keeping them running at full capacity. We need to have good collaboration and willingness to work together. Departments need to understand this is a large issue, and we need help to solve it. Like I can't sit here and dictate what happens and have it happen, right? There's going to be complaints. There's going to be issues, but I think the departments also need to understand that there's limitations here, right? This is a timing thing. These departments are out of space now. We need to make these moves and make them quickly, right? I'm going to show you a timeline here a little bit, and it's a very aggressive timeline, but and then they need to understand that, from a budgeting standpoint, they really need to take the space as is, right? It could very easily blow out of proportion if we start allowing departments as they move to dictate, adding rooms here, taking rooms out, painting, carpeting, all of that, right? Because that's what happens when everybody moves, when they're moving, they all want to remodel the space to suit their needs. And the reality of it is, if you look at all of these spaces and the people who are going there, there's no reason why they can't take it as is. But that's, that'll be a challenge. That'll be a challenge that'll happen. And then just the basic we need cooperation and understanding from everybody, right? This is a big mission, from the Walker and Hall study till the end of that roadmap or to the end of the roadmap we create. It's a huge mission and it's going to affect all of us. And there's going to be times that sacrifices need made. And people need to understand that. They need to understand when they make a sacrifice, they're doing it for the betterment of the county. So. And then here's a timeline that I put together as sort of an updated timeline, but I think we would be looking at midsummer if the controller finance district attorney moves. We would be into the fall, until we would get the CAS and all them moved. And then, and then until we could get the moves to Allen Road, I think we would be late in the year then next year. One thing that I did not mention as I was going through here, there may be a benefit to emptying the historic courthouse at this point in time as well, because as you know, we have a grant application in for close to $1 million. There's a lot of work that's going to happen over there if we're approved for that grant. So it might be nice to have it empty for a period of time while that work gets done. So the timing of that is going to be pretty nice, really.
Fred, to your point of some of the comments you made about, everyone having to just understand the challenges that we're all facing. And if one department is facing it in this building, we are all facing it on some level. I really appreciate, though, your attention to addressing the Reed building. That was a priority pointed out in the study as a concern. It was a concern of mine just when you showed me around when I joined this board of the facilities that we had. You have also been doing this with a focus on what's easier for people, what's easier for people that are utilizing our services when it comes to people being able to file plans, because a lot of people are doing deed transactions online. That a normal deed purchase, Tammy's has stated, the vast majority of their work is now online, but those plans are not. That's a very physical, in-person. Parking at Allen Road is much easier for people to access. That's much easier for them to have that all in one location. Then the efficiencies that can be gained in this building with having, if the DA is able to have all of his folks in one floor, you've identified issues as it relates to, the problems that we've seen with the victim service current location, which is a concern, the big concern to a lot of folks. So while it's been, I think, a large challenge for you, I really appreciate the thoroughness that you've worked through and the goals that you've set to improving things. Maybe not for the individual department that has to make that move, but for the end user or taxpayers, and for efficiencies for the people that are affected. So it's not easy. You can't, but I do appreciate all the work that you've done and the timeline you've laid out.
I also just add that, the cost of doing all this was into my mind as well, right? I was trying to target moves that would be the least expensive, I'll say, to the county. Obviously, there's costs in this. I didn't talk costs here per se until I can iron out some of this a little bit more. But at this point, we do have 60,000 in the budget that's set aside for these moves.
And again, like that's your, hats off to you and your team, because they end up doing a lot of the work. And that's more effective for us and cost effective, I should say, that you have skilled staff to be able to do a lot of those services. That doesn't go unnoticed either. Thanks, Brent.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions or at this time, is there any other business to come before the board?
I will move to adjourn.
We are adjourned. Thank you.